Well, welcome to the Town of Innisfail Agenda and Priorities meeting for February 20th, 2024 at 3 p.m. And we will start the meeting off with the land acknowledgement, and Councillor Dunham has that today.
Thank you, Councillor Messaros. The Town of Innisfail acknowledges that we are meeting on Treaty 7 territory, the ancestral and traditional territory of the Blackfoot Confederacy, Kainai, Piikani, and Siksika, as well as the Tsuut'ina Nation and Stoney Nakoda First Nation. We acknowledge that this territory is home to the Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 3, within the historical Northwest Métis homeland. We acknowledge the many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit who have lived in and cared for these lands for generations. We're grateful for the traditional knowledge keepers and elders who are still with us today and those who have gone before us. We make this acknowledgement as an act of reconciliation and gratitude to those whose territory we reside on.
Thank you, Councillor Dunham. And I should have mentioned I'm chairing today as Deputy Minister, or Deputy Mayor. Okay, so agenda item 2, adoption of agenda. Are there any additions or deletions?
Yes, Deputy Mayor. Messaros, 2 in-camera items, please. Napoleon Southwest Commercial, as well as Napoleon Meadows Subdivision, please. Both on reference MGA 197.2 and Freedom of Information Privacy Act, Section 24, 1G, please.
Okay, thank you, CAO Becker. And would someone like to make a motion to adopt the agenda as amended?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Councillor Heistad, and all in favor? All right, moved. And we will go to agenda item 3, updates from administration, 3.1, the strategic priorities update, and pass it over to CAO Becker to report on that update.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Sorry?
I don't see any minutes on here.
So yeah, just in relation to the priorities chart, it's there for your information. Administration currently is building out our work plans for 2024, which includes your strategic priorities. I can say the government relations strategy is expected to come to you today. Slight delay, so we're going to come back to you probably in 2 weeks' time with some information regarding consideration for priorities. Also ties in the direction you provided for the AEM resolutions in relation to energy. So we're working on that currently. But the rest of the items there are being built into our work plans for 2024. If council's looking, also reports more specifically to the priorities chart more formally at an upcoming AMP meeting too. If there's any questions in relation to any of these items, certainly be willing to answer your questions.
Thank you, CAO Becker. Are there any questions or comments? Mayor Barclay.
Chair Messaros, through to CEO Becker. Just with respect to policy and bylaw updates, and this has really come out of some wastewater discussions from last week, and I'm wondering if administration should have a review of the off-site levy bylaw, because I believe it's 2015 or 16 is the one I found, and it's 10 years old, and costs have gone up dramatically since then. I'm just want to ensure that it is where it should be.
To Mayor Barclay, is the question just to make sure it's current and just as part of our traditional bylaw reviews, and include that in that list of reviews, come back with some overview, and then you can provide direction based on
Yeah, if you think that's appropriate, yes.
It's what I suggest to you, Mayor Barclay, and to council, is that we could introduce the bylaw to conduct a review of the levy. Is quite a large undertaking, but it'd be good to understand what is the offsite levy bylaw. We could do some initial analysis, which may require some formal direction for you to undertake a more formal review, but it is a large undertaking. But I don't want to get ahead of myself and squash any directive, but it is it's not just like a traditional bylaw. It's quite an extensive piece of information. But let's start with seeing the bylaw, and then you can certainly provide more detail from there.
Yeah, and Chair Messaros through to CEO Becker, it doesn't need to be anything rushed, but I think just the conversations that came up with wastewater the other day, it kind of put your mind into where are we at with our offsite levies, and you know, are they adequate since that policy is almost 10 years old. So.
Just to confirm then, that will be added to the list on this strategic priorities update, or by admin? Or is there anything I need to do?
There also, we do have a section under policy bylaw updates under corporate services area, and we'll certainly add offsite levy bylaw part of that review listing.
Okay, are there any other comments or questions? Councillor Bates?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, would you insert it here, or would you perhaps put it on the CAO action control? Like, because now, well, at some point, we're going to review these as priorities, but that, yeah, it's neither here nor there, I guess, as long as it's captured.
Okay, if no more questions or comments, can I have a motion to accept the strategic priorities update?
I'll make that motion,
Councillor Bates,
Madam Chair.
all in favor? Passed. Okay, we'll move to agenda item 3.2, Council Code of Conduct, social media. And again, I'll pass that over to CEO Becker to lead us through the admin documents in the agenda.
Great, thank you. So earlier in the new year, council gave direction to administration to undertake research in relation to adding social media to your current code of conduct bylaw. Administration through legislation conducted thorough research, which makes up this report, has provided several different municipalities social media references in their code of conduct. So all of these references are from code of conduct's bylaws. And there's also some reference to policy support, such as BAMF. But just looking for council direction, how you wish to proceed. And what I'm seeing in the information is council is permitted to use personal social media accounts for posting, as long as it follows some guideline on the statements and representing yourself, and something can't pledge for council, for example. But some larger municipalities also state that you need to utilize a different social media account for your posting. So it really depends on how you wish to proceed. I guess I'll ask you, council, is there any municipalities that really you can resurrect with, or something that really pops at you? And I'd say don't worry right now about wordsmithing, but just give us some general direction, how you wish to proceed. And then we can draft something, and that's something for you to consider, and then move it into a bylaw format as you deemed appropriate. So just looking for some feedback from you.
Councillor Dunham.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Through to CEO Becker. Obviously, it's within the first few, but Beaver County, to me, after reading them all, I think it was a good place to start. I personally have a town council social media page as well as my personal, and historically, I will share information about goings on in town, snow removal, events, things like that. But any political parts to our job here have always gone to my other councillor Facebook page. And there was a email that I had a while back, I believe it was with UCO Becker, just regarding us making statements and how to do that. And I feel as long as we qualify that these are our personal opinions, that's a place I would like to see it start. If we qualify that on our personal pages, that this is our personal opinion and is outside of our council duties, I think that's a good place to start. I mean, obviously we can get very granular on all of it, but as long as we expressly state that we're expressing our personal opinions on our personal pages, I think I'm very comfortable with that. And obviously we we need to be very careful, because I do feel that social media code of conduct isn't expressed onto itself, that our conduct as councillors really rolls over into that. So if we are acting out of what our role is, I think that is also covered in other places, but that's where I'd like to see it start.
Thank you, Councillor Dunham. Are there any other questions or comments, or would anyone like to go through this sort of block by block, or? Councillor Heistad?
Yeah, I don't want to go through it block by block, but I think there's an opportunity for us, if we're going to put this in the, part of the code of conduct, is maybe having that, sessions or, evaluation of how we use our accounts, and maybe that's, maybe it's not during this term, or maybe it's a professional development type, when we're doing our strategic planning. It's just kind of a review of, how we should be utilizing our accounts as to reviewing all these. I think they all have credible, when I went through it, it makes sense. But I think that for myself, it's easier to sit down as a group, especially when we're doing our strategic planning, and talk about certain things that may come up, and talk about instances where you may jump in and talk about personal things on your own account, or if you have a council account, which I don't have, but how to conduct yourself. I find that it's just easier to have that conversation, and we could do it here. I don't mind, but that's how I was looking at this on a move forward basis. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Heistad. Councillor Wing?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Messaros. I guess I have a bit of a different perspective in that I look at social media as not really much different from a communication perspective as any media. And certainly with the inability to post regular media onto Facebook, I think that, we've kind of, our hands have been tied, so to speak. But I think our code of conduct is the place where we should speak about. It doesn't matter whether it's a Facebook post or speaking to Johnny Bachewski. I think the same guidelines need to apply, and I think that I'm personally not interested. I do have a campaign account that I started back 3 years ago. I rarely go there. I should probably just take it down because I don't post to it. But I use my own personal account to repost whatever the town puts up, whatever, snow removal or whatever the different events are. I would just prefer to just agree to be guided by our code of conduct and leave it at that. I think social media is probably one of the most fastest evolving phenomena we've ever seen in the world. And I think trying to capture it in a policy all of its own right now is just, I think we'll be updating it and changing it all of the time. So that would just be my thought, capture it in our code of conduct. And I think probably my best examples through this group were the ones that were like even Grand Prairie, Black Falls, like just very, very simple, accessible, whatever, but use your common sense and follow the code of conduct. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wing. Mayor Barclay?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Messaros. I think when I go through these, Edson kind of stands out to me on what they're doing. It's fairly simple, and I think as long as it ties into our code of conduct. Maybe Black Faults as well. I don't think people need to have separate accounts. I don't think that's necessary at all, but I think some of the verbiage around, ensuring that we're supportive of, council's decisions and administration and the organization sort of thing is wise. And as I said before, there's certainly no issues with anything that anybody's doing, but it's more of a go-forward basis and something that we have not addressed and should maybe have in the past. And I think being at that breakout session at Alberta Munis with the social media, and I understand last week the legal presentation that was done. I know someone that went to that, and I also believe that this was a topic with that presentation that was done last week with, who was that, sorry? Brownlee, thanks, yeah. So, you know, I would say if it's not important, then it wouldn't be discussed, and I think we see a lot of, or some code of conducts right now that are being triggered because of social media use, so I think having that protection there and understanding is important for everybody.
Is your light on?
If there's any other comments, but if not,
I'd like to make just one kind of summary comment. First of all, thank you to administration for putting all of this work together. What I'm hearing is that the preference is to use almost a principles-based approach as opposed to getting down into the weeds, and I support that. And yeah, back over to you, CO Becker.
great, thanks, Deputy Mayor, and to Council for the feedback. What I suggest we do, we'll draft the clause to amend your code of conduct bylaw, and then we'll attach this document too, and then you can provide any final touches you wish. But I think we have enough to understand where you want to go.
Okay, thank you. And would someone like to make the recommended motion? Councillor Dunham?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Messaros. I move that council provide direction for social media use inclusions in the council code of conduct bylaw.
And all in favor? Passed, thank you. And finally, 3.3, council reports procedure. Over to you again, CO Becker.
Director of Community Services has the day off, didn't he? That seems like. Thanks, Deputy Mayor. Just a few words for your consideration as you move into formalizing your council reports. So just a few notes for your consideration. Of course, the purpose of the reports is to keep the rest of council aware, and administration too, and just on some of your workings and some of your attendance at different events. I just suggested too that some of your committee works on especially on the internal and external, is to provide broad strokes, is not to provide full detail of the actions of the committee, but where is the committee going, what are the core discussion items. And again, my experience with this is it can be even in the form of point form, just to create awareness of the actions of the work you're doing and where you're at, allow council to ask questions of you providing the report if they require additional information, just more context in the dialogue. So what happens when council report would come in, it'd come to the executive assistant onto me for review. And so I vet all the information going onto the agenda. And at times there could be something in your report that I would identify as potentially creating maybe not for public attention, or should not be from the words of a councillor, and you may see a black mark through there just to help you. But I'd certainly speak to that if that were to be the case. So again, if there's any concerns with the reports, that's why we need it in advance, well enough that I could help you make sure you're communicating to your desire. But so not a lot of information in this report, just that KISS, keep it simple. Just with one S. Whoops. Yeah, there's a code of conduct issue. But again, it's just to identify, help the public know what you're up to, but provide council administration. I know I'm all red, but just to give a little context and some of the business you're up to. But again, the more information that's there creates confusion, and may not be from the proper voice, because it should be maybe coming from the entity that's the driver of that information. So I'll stop there if there's any questions for clarity.
Thank you, CO Becker. Does anyone have any questions, or are there any little final details that you would like to discuss before we move on from this? Councillor Dunham?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Messaros. Through to CO Becker. So when if we get too granular and you do the strikeouts, will we see those before they actually go into the agenda so we can revise them, or will they go in and it'll be redacted?
Yeah, it's, so just an experience, obviously we don't have that experience together yet, but my experience, if there's something, a wording or a name, I would just redact it right there, or I'd have Juanita do that.
Okay.
If there's more than one, I would be in touch, that maybe a modification if we have enough time, but often I would just help you out but identify it, maybe it's an email or in advance of the meeting, but certainly I would have a reason. So it really depends on how much. If it's full of pieces that should not be provided to public, then I probably would not include it in the package, to be honest with you. My job is to help you with communication, but not put yourself in the place of jeopardizing, the confidences of council or an external organization.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you so very much. Appreciate it.
Councillor Wing.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor Messaros through to CEO Becker. So I can provide a verbal report, and I'm not censored as to what I say, but I provide something in writing, and somebody has the ability to go through it with a marker and say, you can't say that and you can't say that. And I realize that that's in a very extreme situation, but I thought part of the reason from moving into more written reports or written format was that we would be, in the end, more accountable for our time and for how we are compensated for the work that we do back to our community, right? So I don't honestly know how I would report on anything then. Like I said, I'm used to writing my report and reading my report, but when I read it, I'm not challenged at that time. But now it sounds like I would submit the same report and potentially be challenged or not, or I wouldn't want to see something that I wrote published with a bunch of black lines in it. That would be extremely humiliating, I think, and I just really struggle with that thought.
Deputy Mayor to Councillor Wing, really good comment. And you're right, I'm not here to censor, I'm here to protect you. So if you're referencing such as a name or a quote from somebody else, or it's an HR significance that you would typically not share verbally, if there's something in your report, like on all information in the package here, I go through it. If there's something there that should not be made public, it would be not in the package. So if there's something in your report, such as one of your committees that is talking to an HR item or should not be, it should be in the realm of your committee and should not be out of your voice, then I would help you. Because if I don't, then the end result could be significant. So I'm not the gatekeeper of your report. My job is to assist you on what should be public information or not. You're right, verbal, written. I don't know what you're going to report on verbally.
Right.
And that's within you. I have no ability to support you. But in a written format, if there's something of significance that could create difficulty for you as council, I will provide my opinion. And maybe the best is that I do not redact, is I just do not include it in the package or try to talk to you in advance that I'm seeing this in your report. You may want to, I suggest to you that you may want to adjust it, and you may say, no, I don't want it adjusted. And that's really your responsibility. So it really depends. Yeah, I'm not sure if that makes sense, but.
Thanks back to CEO Becker. So are we feeling then that there's a risk attached to providing written reports that we have never really assessed as far as with our verbal reports? Because do you believe that there's an opportunity for people to write things down that we wouldn't typically, is that the problem that we're trying to address, that we wouldn't typically say out loud? Yeah, just a question. I mean, I'm not sure what I will ever write in a report again now, but yeah, I would never share something from an in-camera other session verbally, so I certainly wouldn't write about it, but if there's a risk attached to this, I think that's just another part of the discussion.
So to the question, up to this date, I've heard verbal reports of council. I don't have any examples of question from the CAO of crossing that line or the line that's, I provide that feedback if I heard that. But in your first attempt at writing reports as council, I did see that's why, as the builder of the agenda, I pulled the reports, because what you're stating is a true example. So yeah, there's information in the reports that I felt should not be made public, and because we're new to this, I thought it was your best interest as council that I would not share that in a public setting, because it should not be coming from the voice of council for what I reviewed in the reports.
Councillor Heistad?
Yeah, no, Councillor Wing, good comments. How I'm looking at this report writing is, I'm going to be as brief as possible. At the end of the day, we've gone around the circle many times, and how I'm going to approach mine is very point form, and it's like Councillor Don Harrison said, it's in the minutes. It's there in the minutes, and you know, I would agree with Councillor Wing. I think for CAO Becker, you're fortunate to have a good council that's not going to go outside and cause a lot of grief for all of us. So those are my comments. Thanks.
Okay, thank you to council. Are there any other comments? Okay, would someone like to make the recommended motion? Councillor Harrison?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The council approves this report for information.
Thank you, and all those in favor? And passed, thank you. Okay, so we'll move on to correspondence and information, and we've got 2 letters in the package today, both of them requesting some financial support. So I'd like to ask for CAO Becker's feedback on the Innisfail Citizens on Patrol Association request, if you could provide us with some guidance on that, or to share your thoughts on that one. Thank you.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. So yeah, this letter came in. It was put in your package for review. Administration has not been in discussion with COP at this point to have a stronger breakdown of their request. It's my understanding that they have received some materials from a neighboring COP. So I from right now, having the letter before you, my suggestion to you is to consider putting it back to administration for further detail to the request. So we'll come back to you at a future meeting with a little bit more detail of what they're asking and just for the justification of the $5,000. And with that information, certainly council could ask them to come before you, but right now I'd say put it to me, and we'll just talk to them about the request.
Okay, and does that require a motion, CAO Becker, or?
If council's good, I'm good with it, just to conduct a discussion with them, get some detail, and then you can provide some more formal direction from that information.
Okay, Mayor Barclay?
Deputy Mayor Messaros through to CEO Becker. I'm curious if you would have a conversation potentially with Manager Leith or Staff Sergeant Imey. One thing that kind of popped out at me was the portable dash cams, and is that normal for citizens on patrol to have that? I just think back to conversations we had last term around security and some of the things that came forward from legal advice and insurance advice. So, you know, where is that line? And so I'd just be curious about the insight into that.
I was just wondering, were you expecting an answer from CAO Becker on? Okay. Councillor Wing?
Okay, thank you.
Deputy Mayor. One other question, actually, that I was wondering about is they talk about requiring flag training, and I wonder about town staff. Do we have a trainer on staff for any of our summer students or whatever when they come on board? Is there a potential for COPA to partner with the town relative to that training? So it's just a question.
To Councillor Wing's question, we do have some resources in relation to flags and first aid, so I thought of that when I saw that request, so we'll see what we can do to help them. If not, maybe that's part of their request for the funding, so we'll evaluate that. I think Director had a...
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight to council, just for memory, that the group did come before council, I believe, last summer, and have been receiving free use of the arena meeting room through to the end of 2024, I believe, yeah.
Thank you, Director Jenkins. And Councillor Heistad?
Yeah, no, I think it's great that we got COP again. I was a member years ago, well, probably 15 years ago now, but I don't recall, you know, a price tag of 5,000, but I think it's great that CO Becker can go back to them and work with Manager Leith on what those costs may be. And I don't think any of our citizens should be out of pocket if they're donating their time. Just try to make it as easy as possible. But I'm okay with CO Becker doing his digging. Thanks.
Okay, and then we'll move to the next letter from Innisfail Fish and Game Association. And they are requesting a $500 financial support. So do we have any questions or comments about this request?
Deputy Mayor Messaros, I would make a motion that we donate $500 to the Fish and Game Association for their upcoming awards banquet. I think they've been quite generous to Innisfail with dock and fish every year, and we have a great relationship with them, and we do support other endeavors, so I think this would be good for us to do.
Okay, any questions or comments about that motion, or do we pass it first? Discussion, yeah. Councillor Heistad?
Yeah, my question would be is just, I think it's the wording that kind of caught me off guard, is like cash, the cash thing. I think it's probably easier to say it's a donation or a sponsorship for us. Similar, you know, I think we've done that with, you know, a number of groups that have come forward. It's just cash donation. Yeah, I guess cash, or I just $500 sponsorship sounds better to me. That's, you know, as I'm looking at the letter. So if we can word it that way, that's the only thing glaring, and I think they've done great work. Thanks.
Okay, Mayor Barclay, will you repeat your motion?
Okay, I will make a motion that we give Innisfail Fish and Game a $500 donation for sponsorship, would be in the form of a check to Innisfail Fish and Game.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor? Good, passed. Thank you. Okay, so we'll move to the roundtable discussion now, and Councillor Dunham is first on the list.
Thank you, Deputy Messaros. Not a lot for me to report this week. I was gone last week. I did not get back into town until last night, so I did miss some of our family day events, but I did get to spend time with family.
Thank you, Councillor Dunham. Over to Councillor Harrison.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, also a very quiet week. I was out and about on the weekend, just enjoying the weather and some of the events that were being carried out. So, yeah, it was great, and looking forward to the next week upcoming.
Great, thank you, Councillor Harrison. And over to Councillor Wing.
Thank you. Never know with this mic. Last Tuesday, I participated in a presentation by the Innisfail Public Library Board to Red Deer County Council. I had sent all of you just a snapshot or a picture of an annual report format that the library has done for the entire operation, but they actually did the same kind of a format, just with information relative to the county residents, county memberships, lots of interesting information as it pertained to the county. council was very engaged, asked lots of good questions. They were very interested in all of the information that was provided to them. So they're very supportive of our library, which is great, and certainly well received. February 14th, I attended the Mountain View Regional Water Service Commission Board as a board meeting as an alternate, and Councillor Bates will report on that meeting. And we also enjoyed a busy weekend as a family. We celebrated the Eagles League Championship win on Saturday night, and then celebrations in the community on Monday. Thanks to everyone involved, for sure. And this Thursday, I will be participating in a Parkland Regional Library Board meeting.
Awesome, thank you, Councillor Wing. And my report, I also had a quiet week this week. I've got nothing to report. Thank you. Thank you, myself. Thanks to myself. Over to Councillor Heistad. Let me back up just a second. Sorry about that, Councillor Heistad. Over to Councillor Bates.
Thank you. So yeah, the Water Commission meeting that we had on February 14th, just for information, that organization still alternates sometimes and does Zooms, and we did a Zoom that day just because it still saves a lot of time and effort. Basically, it was reported a steady month of operation. We were given a bit of an initial provincial water sharing meeting overview, and there were apparently dozens of stakeholders, and the focus of that one was on water conservation need and the recognition of that, and there definitely was a consensus. I also went to the SRD meeting as an invited alternate. All the alternates were invited. Strategic planning was discussed. There were information overview from various member initiatives, all member initiatives, and discussion of asset management and reserve requirements. And on Family Day, I started that off with a YouTube from Grand Prairie watching my granddaughter win the silver medal in ringette. So that was kind of cool. I didn't do a whole lot more on Family Day. And this week, I believe MPC's back on. I think it was off and back on, and MDP is canceled, I think. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bates and Councillor Heistad.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor Messaros. I actually attended the Eagles versus the Eagles, and it was a big win for the Eagles. Actually, I attended, well, I swung by some of the events on the weekend, and actually, it was a great weekend. Beautiful weather, as it was really nice. Probably, it's my favorite weekend because there's no pressure, family pressure, and BS. So, yeah. And I saw my second favorite, Councillor Gavin Bates, at the game. So, first was Wing. No, joking. That was it. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Heistad, and over to Mayor Barclay.
I'll do a report on my committees and whatnot for next Monday, but did attend the Eagles game on Saturday and was at the Family Day events yesterday. It was a packed house all over the place in Innisfail. The ski hill, the arena, the curling rink, the swimming pool was extremely busy, so it was great to see, and thanks to the staff who did such a wonderful job in supporting all those events and everything. So thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Barclay. Okay, we'll move to upcoming events. And are there any questions or comments? Or if not, we'll accept this as information. Who would like to do that? Councillor Wing?
Thank you. I'll make that motion.
Thank you. And all in favor? Okay, excellent. And we will now make a motion to go in camera.
I'll make that motion.
Okay.